All right, welcome back to the Start the Rebuild podcast. I'm your co-host Tim Fournier alongside Ian Mills.
What's going on, people? It's Thursday, Friday Eve, as they say. Time to get rowdy throughout your day to get ready for a Friday. I mean, ready for the weekend. So yeah, glad to be back. Fifth episode on the rebuild. Is that correct? That the
Yeah,
case?
I think it's episode 5. That could be
Episode
completely
five.
wrong, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, if we can't count to five, that's kind of concerning. But I think it is.
80% sure it's episode 5. That's what we're
Okay.
gonna call this show.
All right, we're happy with that. I'm glad we found a four-fifths, if you will. But yeah, happy to be back. We each had a pretty eventful week, or maybe not super eventful, but big stuff happened, I guess. So,
Yeah.
Tim, I guess we'll start there. I mean, Tim, you've had probably a crazier week than I, so we'll start there. How has your week been? What happened? What should the people know about?
So last week we kind of talked about interview stuff. I had 3 more interviews. Um, I don't really know how much I would be allowed to talk about it, and I don't really want to take any risk at
Yeah,
all. But it is a very exciting opportunity for an internship that would be a year long in the sports industry. So it's been very exciting. One of the biggest things I've noticed, because I've now done it's for one organization, but I applied to 4 different positions and I've had 5 total interviews. One of them are for one of the positions I've interviewed 2 rounds worth. The biggest thing I've noticed is that I was really, really nervous for the first one, but I've gotten progressively less nervous for each interview, kind of just knowing what to expect. So I think that's definitely something that is kind of relieving that I was kind
mhm.
of like freaking out for the first one. And by the last one, I was like, yep, this is at noon and it's going to happen and it's going to be fine. Um, so very exciting stuff. Hopefully, I will know more and can talk about more of that relatively soon. What about you, Ian?
Yeah. I had probably a bit more laid back of a week, um, if I had to guess. So my girlfriend and I do a long distance, as you know. I don't think anyone else knows, or people know, but and so she came up or came down, or yeah, I guess came up as I should say, this past weekend, and we just kind of hung out, and that was a good time. Mostly just kind of chilled. Ate a lot of food, went out to dinner a couple times. It was a good time. It was a lot of fun. I mean, I think that was really nice. It was just like being able to just chill, like watch TV and go out to dinner was super chill. So that was a lot of fun. Um, and then what else did I do? I mean, I obviously went back to work on Monday, and we've had a pretty successful week, I would say. Sort of been a little lackadaisical, but yeah, pretty successful week of work, and that's been pretty cool. Um, and last week, I think I left on a cliffhanger where I said or my what was my weekly goal was to make a decision about a thing that I wasn't able to talk about. Still not able to talk about that thing, but I will say that I've made at least a short-term decision, and that short-term decision is so I've made 2 documentaries already in my time here at Fox 40. I'm going to start on a third. Um, and I'm gonna make it a little differently. The hope is to make it a little differently and sort of make it um a little bit more uh I don't know, in my mind, more involved. I think I'm gonna make it more kind of visually interesting and like the first couple ones have been super rushed and kind of linear, and I want to break away from that. Um and try to create this one in more of the realm of like what you would see potentially on like a 30 for 30 at ESPN, stuff like that.
That's awesome.
And yeah, I'm excited for that. It was cool to make that decision. And then also, thirdly, I've been going to the gym the last 2 months or so, but I'm basically doing mostly cardio that entire 8 months, 2 months, or 8 weeks, 2 months, whatever. but last week or so, I've really started to get back into like strength training.
Let's
And
go.
man, it kicks my ass, bro. Like after, especially after doing because I basically do like an hour of cardio a day is what I've been doing, and it's super fun. I enjoy that. And then it's like doing an hour of cardio, and then I'm like, okay, let's go, like, you know, do like bicep curls, and it's just like I'm really tired right now. It's like
Yeah, I
that's
bet.
the least.
Yeah,
So I got to figure out a good balance for that. But it's nice to just be able to like kind of change up the workout a little bit, which is cool.
definitely. Kind of going way back to the beginning of your thing right there. And I might have asked you about this before on one of these podcasts, but how has what's the biggest difficulty with long distance right now?
Biggest difficulty long distance. I mean, I think it's just like my girlfriend and I even talked about this weekend where like we see each other maybe twice a month, probably a little bit less on average. Like probably every other 3 weeks, I would say, or every 3 weeks, I should say.
Yeah.
Um, and the difficulty in that mostly is that you get frustrated a little bit and like not being able to see the other person. You know what I mean? Just because like for me, it's like I work a lot and like that's not anyone else's fault other than like mine and my jobs, right? And um, so like she's mostly free on weekends and I'd say I'm free on weekends for the most part, but also there's stuff going on. So like that's the biggest frustration is like wanting to see someone and then like it divulges into frustration about the situation and then potentially frustration like with each other and like in like, oh, why can't you do this and why can't you do that? And like I'd say that's you sort of have to, be an adult about the situation, like figure out like, okay, no,
Yeah.
this isn't anyone's fault. I think this weekend we just being able to kind of hang out and just sit. It was super nice. It was like the best time we've had in months, and I think it was just because like we both just really want. It'd been a while since we'd like been able to just hang out here and just kind of relax and so that was nice. So I'd say like obviously like not being able to see each other, but also like like having the time to call is sometimes tough when like I don't get home until like 1:30 in the morning and then like I have to go to work at 1 p.m. the next day, stuff like that. So certainly not easy, but right now it's very well worth it. Yeah.
Yeah. I've never really been in that situation, but just thinking about it, I could kind of see kind of two ways it could go. I feel like if both people are very busy with work or whatever it may be, it might make when you see each other like even more exciting
Yeah.
and better. I could also see, I don't know if you have a take on this. I could also see when you don't see each other for a few weeks every single time, it putting pressure on when you do see each other that you like have to do something super exciting when both of you are maybe just tired from work.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's something I've noticed. And I think we've gotten better at that is like when we first started doing long distance, like you know, a couple months ago, like 8 months ago,
Mhm.
we sort of did that thing where we were like, okay, we're gonna do all this. We're gonna, I live in Binghamton. Okay, we're gonna go to Ithaca. We're gonna go to Syracuse. We're gonna go to all these things, and she lives down by the city, and so it's like, okay, we're gonna go to the city every time, and this, that, and the third, and it's like this weekend, I was sort of just like, let's just hang out, like let's just chill. I also think something I did notice was I took Friday off of work, so we had 3 days together as opposed to just two. And whereas two, it was sort of just felt rushed. Where we did three, it was like a better amount of just like, okay, we can kind of have one day where we, decide to go out with our friends, walk downtown and go out and hang out. And that was super fun. We went to a barcade, which is where you play arcade games in a bar, which is super dope.
That sounds
Um,
sick.
it was actually really cool. I don't know if Rochester has any, but I would highly recommend it. It was a
That
lot
sounds
of
very
fun.
fun.
Yeah, if you're ever down in the old 607, I'll have to bring you. But so that was super fun. That was really cool. But then we also had days where like, Friday night we just kind of like we went to get dinner and then we were like, okay, do we want to go out? Do we want to go hang out with our friends? Do we want to go, to see a movie? And we were just like, nah, we'll just sit in bed. Like we'll just play Mario Kart. And then like that's what we did. So it was like kind of nice where we've now kind of at this point where we don't really feel the pressure to do anything, Like sure you should do things like you shouldn't just sit around and hang out, in a relationship. Like we did go out to dinner a bunch of times, but it was nice to just kind of sit and play video games and like watch Netflix and stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah, I could see that being kind of an important balance and really needing to communicate where it's like you're not just
Yeah.
both trying to go out and do all these things for the other person when both of you actually just want to have a weekend to chill out.
Yeah. Yeah, it was super cool. It was super, super dope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So next thing I kind of want to talk about, you're saying you are starting your third documentary or
Yeah.
documentary, as we upstate New York people
Yes.
would like to say.
Elementary.
Um, how important we were talking a little bit about this, like something a little similar before we started recording. How important do you think having kind of a creative outlet on for yourself is aside from your actual work? Because I feel like a lot of people in general run through life on autopilot and then are confused and frustrated why they don't feel kind of fulfilled and they feel like life is really boring. And I think a big part of that is because people, go do their 9 to 5 job or whatever it may be for a bigger thing than themselves, like at an organization or whatever. And then they come home and they don't do anything else that's kind of productive and creative for themselves. They kind of just come home and turn off. How important
Right.
do you think that creative outlet is, no matter how big or small it is?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's very important. I mean, I think for me, then again, but I also don't blame people for just like coming home and just like, okay, I'm tired and crashing out. But for me, it's super important because like my job is inherently creative, right? Like having to shoot high school highlights or college highlights, whatever it may be, but then also having to then do feature stories, right? And like that is you are editing and you are writing and you are, videographing, right? So you're doing all these things, which is inherently creative and it's cool, right? Like that's exciting and that's fun. But like the issue for me is like with my job, it's so short term. A lot of stuff like with the news, you have to have new content every single day, right? Which is cool, but it's like you don't really have the time to take a second to think about it and say, oh, you do have time to think about it, but like you have to be very quick with your decisions and quick with your writing and quick with your like everything's very, very quick. So for me, what I prefer is obviously kind of that long form, long term stuff. And that's why I like doing these documentaries. And I think that's for me, it's more of I really get to stop, sit down. Okay, how do I want to do this? And I can sit down at my desk for an hour and work on a 20-second shot that's going to look really good because it excites me. Like one of my last documentary I did, Pacific March, there were like three or four like 15-second shots that took me like an hour, hour and a half to do. And I remember just being like, those are the things in the documentary I'm most proud of. So yeah, I think for me, like just being able to create something creative, use your mind in that sense, but also something that you're proud of, like something that you're going to look back and be like, I'm going to show this to my kids when I'm 60, right? And, I might show these to my kids and they might be like, what is any of this? What do you even, who, well, like, what does any of this mean? And then that might be valid. So it's whatever. But my point is, I guess, is like, yeah, it's not just about being creative, it's also being making something you're proud of. And I think often people, as you mentioned, people go on autopilot and they don't realize what they're doing at work might be something that they should be proud of, right? Like,
Yeah.
uh, like people I think often are a little too hard on themselves when they come to that, and also think they can't do certain things. Like, they'll watch, um, YouTube or whatever, and just think that they can't do that, and that's like, it's a very achievable goal, and I think realizing being creative is pretty achievable. I mean, being creative in your job maybe sometimes isn't, but being creative outside of it, certainly is. But again, on the flip side of that, I don't blame anyone for just getting home from work and being like, all right, we're gonna make dinner and go to bed. Because it's like life is very difficult. And like it's okay to, go do whatever Monday through Friday and just enjoy your life outside of work. I think that's also
Yeah.
super valid as well.
Yeah, I'm mostly talking about the people that, are kind of frustrated with their where they're at in life and feel like they're missing something, but then don't realize that they have the opportunity to put themselves out there and build something for themselves that they're proud of.
Oh
And
yeah,
it doesn't
for
even
sure.
have to be like social media content or something like this. Maybe you like painting or something like that, and no one else is going to see the painting but you, but it's something you make and that you're proud of and that you like doing.
Yeah.
But people would normally rather just consume
Yeah.
whatever versus create something. And I don't know, I think a lot more people could benefit from finding whatever that outlet might be. Can
Yeah.
you go a little bit deeper into what you were saying about I thought it was really interesting how you were saying that creativity or whatever it might be is more an achievable goal than people realize.
Yeah. So when I think about it this way, is like, I don't know about you, but like growing up, it was always sort of like having a career in a creative field was sort of, I'm not say frowned upon, but like sort of frowned upon. Like I remember having a conversation with my parents at a certain age, being like, I want to be a writer. Like I want to be like that's what I want to do. And they were just like, no, you don't. And I was like, what do you mean? They're like, yeah, no, I wouldn't do that. And I was just like, okay, like I guess I won't do that then. And I remember like my dad having a conversation with me. He was like, don't be a writer. He was like, just do like sports writing. Be a sports writer. Be a like that's a job that exists, right? And that's obviously what I do now. So it worked out. But uh, when I think of people being creative, like being creative in your job, as I mentioned, may not be super easy, but being able to satisfy yourself creatively, I think is pretty valid or pretty achievable. Like the way I think about it is, if you can go home and you have, let's get home at 5 o'clock and you want to go to bed at 10, right? You make dinner, maybe you watch some TV. You have time in your day, potentially, maybe you don't, to, okay, if you want to be a writer, you can write on your own. I think people put the pressure on themselves is that if I'm doing this thing, someone needs to see it. As you mentioned, painting for yourself is actually one of the best things you can do, I think. Like writing for yourself. Nobody has to see the finished product. If it's bad, it's bad. You shelve it. But you also can learn from it. Like that's how you get better. And I think people are so fearful. And that's something that's like a stereotype with people who write. It's like everyone's so scared to start because what if it's not
Right.
good? What if I'm not good enough? And it's like you're not gonna be good enough unless you do it. Like nobody's gonna
Right.
start this thing. When I started doing my job, I was dog water, bro. And I'm still might be dog water in some people's eyes. I'm only 22. So it's like I'm only gonna hopefully I'll only get better from here. I don't know. But
Yeah.
you're not
I
gonna
feel the
like
same exact way about like the content I make, the short form
yeah,
content. Especially TikTok has a feature where it shows you like 1 year ago today the videos you post. And I'm by no means like super successful with it now. I have like a couple thousand followers, like whatever. But the videos I was posting back then, I literally see them and cringe to like the
yeah,
core of my being because they're just so horrible. And I've definitely improved a lot over the last year or two. Um, so just kind of
yeah,
going off of what you're saying,
yeah, for
I'm not
sure.
even
For
successful
sure.
at this point, but I've gotten a lot better. But it it's a big in the beginning, it feels like a very big price to pay to put yourself out there for all of this judgment. When
Yeah.
in reality, like I was posting the dumbest, cringiest, worst content ever, and no one ever said
Yeah.
anything.
Exactly, and that's the thing too. Is like people. I think the internet has kind of changed people's mind of like because mean comments and all that stuff they still exist. I got a mean comment last night, and I tried not to let it bother me, but it bothered me a little bit. But I tried
On
not to
what?
on Instagram. But we can get to that in a minute. But my
Okay.
point, I guess, is like uh uh yeah, so not doing it for anyone else other than yourself is actually super healthy. I feel like
Mhm.
doing it like these documentaries I've done, like obviously they've been released to the public and people have liked them, but like I am happy about them because I did them for myself. Like I didn't do it because I was trying to, someone else made me do it. It was like, I want to do this and I did it and I really liked it. But again, it also doesn't have to be writing or anything like that. It can be something, and you also don't have to be good at any of these things to enjoy it. Something I've done that's kind of creative and that's really helped me kind of fill a niche when I don't want to write or whatever is Legos. Like I do like the last like couple months I've been
Love it.
kind of into Legos. Maybe not so much the last month or so, but like there was like a
Yeah.
6 months where I would like constantly buy Legos and put them together and like it was just like, oh, like for 2 hours a night, it was like this is just what I like. This is what I'm doing and I'm really enjoying it. So
That's the exact feeling that I'm talking about right now. Because when you go through the process of building a Lego and you go step by step, you kind of just feel like, whatever, like, yeah, this is the next step. But then you do it for an hour or whatever. And that feeling that you get for like 10 seconds when you take a step back and look at the finished product and you're like, wow, this is kind of cool. You'll
yeah,
never like the rest of the time you have that Lego, you won't really care. But that
yeah,
exact feeling, it's very like specific when you work on something and then you see the finished product and you're proud of
yeah.
it and you're like, wow, this looks good. It's a very specific feeling, and that's the exact thing that I'm talking about.
Definitely. Definitely, yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, that's something how I felt with the documentaries too, is like, it was like almost like a Lego in that sense. It was like I was constantly working on different parts of it throughout the thing. And it was like when I work on them, when I work on anything, it's like I've seen the thing 30 times before it airs, right? Like that's the thing, is like you've seen the product 30 times before it's finished. But like with this one, it was like I've seen each section probably 10 times, but I haven't seen the whole thing together
Mhm.
finished, like a finished product until the end. Um, so yeah, I definitely agree with that. But yeah. But yeah, I guess to mean comment, the one mean comment. Um, so I've been using my Instagram more for media more for my media recently. It's something I didn't really like doing. I didn't like Instagram for a long time and then sort of decided to hop back on a couple weeks back and I've been posting on it sparingly, but still have been posting on it. And I posted high school highlights the other day and a bunch of the kids on the team or at the school saw it and they all shared it and stuff and liked it. And they were super like for the most like 99.99% of people seemed to really enjoy it. And there was one guy who again, I think he might have either been a bot or a troll, whatever, but he basically was just saying he was just like, oh, you botched all these names. And I was just like, no, I didn't. I was like, you trying to gaslight me right now? I was like, I know I didn't. I was just like, what are you talking about? Like I'm very positive I didn't do that. But it was like whatever. And it kind of annoyed me. And I was just like, last night, I was just like, it was right after I was done my shift. And I was just like, I kind of feel like crap right now. I was like, I just want to go home. I don't want to like do anything. Like, let's play video games. But like, I sort of was like, forced myself. I was like, no, I'm going to go to the gym. Like, you're like, you always go to the gym, on weekday nights. I was like, just go to the gym. You'll feel a lot better after your workout. And like, that's what I did. Was like, and I'm glad I did. Like, I would have felt a lot worse about myself this morning if I hadn't.
Right?
So yeah, that was nice to just be able to be like, all right, no, just don't be a baby about it. You know, don't let it bother you. Live your life and work out. And then that's what I did. So
Yeah. Back to the hate comment thing. It's hard to recognize it in the moment, but as far as the people that are worried about, posting on social media or whatever it might be, a creative outlet, and they're worried about negative feedback because that bothers them, the one thing to kind of remember is that, which is very hard to do, but if you're getting negative feedback, that means what you're doing is working in terms of people are seeing it.
yeah, for
You know
sure.
what I mean?
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
Because
Definitely.
you're not going to get that negative comment if, five people saw the post. Then they're gonna be
Right.
like, oh, what's the point of commenting something negative on this post
Yeah,
with
that's a good
5
point. Yeah, that's a
views?
good way to think about it.
Um,
Um,
which is
yeah,
easier said than done. And everyone talks about how you're gonna get 20 good comments and you're gonna focus on the one bad one just because that's the way our brain works. But at the same
right.
time, if you really take a step back and look at it, it's almost a compliment in itself because then you're getting enough reach to get that
True.
21st comment that happens to be
Yeah.
bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And even I'm working in local news, um, even in working in local news, it's like you get used to the local news. Like there's like the whole joke of like don't look at your local news's Facebook comments because they're horrible and like they are horrible. Like it's I remember when I first started this job, like it drove me crazy, dude. I was checking the comments all the time. And like I remember like I had a mentor be he was like, you gotta stop. Like he was like, you're ruining your own brain. Like you're basically
Mhm.
getting better for nothing. These people comment this and completely forget about it 30 seconds after. And I was like, okay, good point. And now we don't have that. I don't really have that issue of really looking at comments, but I also don't think people comment as mean things anymore, and I don't know why that is. But um, certainly, yeah, it was definitely something. I think that is important to know. Is like yeah, if people are actually commenting mean things, it's because they saw it. As long as you didn't actually do something stupid or mess up,
Right.
you know. But um, yeah, I also just think, yeah, people do these things and then forget about it immediately after. Like this is like this means nothing in their day. Don't let it ruin your day, I guess.
Definitely. Definitely. Well, do you want to get into our goals for next week, or do you want to get into those couple sports topics we were thinking about?
Yeah, we can do some sports topics to
All right, I'll
to
let you
to
lead the way and pick which ones you want to do.
Okay. So we talked off air. There was one that really made me think or that I want to discuss, and that is the NBA playoffs. All right. So for me, the NBA is like the third league in my mind. Like NFL is one for me for sure, and MLB is two for sure. And I like the NBA and I like the NHL, but they're certainly a step below. However, with that being said, NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs are electric. I think that's why I don't care about the regular season. It just doesn't feel like the regular season cares that much. You can say that about MLB as well, a little bit. But point is though, NBA playoffs, I'm super excited. Mostly because I think of the Eastern Conference, the Celtics are by far the favorite. Correct me if I'm wrong, but by
Mhm.
far the favorite. The Bucks aren't going to have Giannis in the first round. Also, haven't really looked good since Doc Rivers took over. The Knicks have looked really good recently, but again, Julius Randle's out. I mean, they've looked good without Julius Randle. But who said it? I can't remember who said it. Maybe Becky Hammond said it earlier in the year. She was like,
Yeah.
it's to have your best player be a point guard and perform well in the playoffs. And everyone pushed back on that.
Well, she was saying someone that's like 6 foot.
Right, exactly. I don't know if everyone pushed back on it, but Knicks fans especially pushed back on that. I agree with her immensely. Again, I'm a basketball casual, so if you yell at me in the comments if you want to. Go ahead. Um, I'm a basketball casual, but I agree with her, and I also think really outside of, I mean, Joel Embiid's back, but how many games has he played in the regular season? I don't know. I think the Celtics are favored in the East, but going to the West, I think it's open, so open, the most open it's been maybe. I mean, it's pretty open last year too, but super open, I guess is my point. I'm excited to just be able to watch these series. I feel like there's going to be a lot of 6 and 7 game series. Um, and just as like a sports fan, being able to just kind of like any playoff atmosphere is going to be fun, especially in like competitive atmospheres. It's just going to be fun to just sit down. I think it was like 4 or 5 games on Sunday. I don't have to work on Sunday. So like I saw the schedule and I was like, oh, I'm just going to like park myself in front of a TV,
Hmm.
turn a couple games on, and it's gonna be fun. So very excited for the NBA playoffs, personally.
Yeah. My kind of macro overview is in the East, it's the Celtics kind of like you said, and everyone's just kind of fighting for the right to play the Celtics and then
Yeah.
ultimately lose. They've looked like the best team in the NBA all the year this year. And more than likely it's their year. The Knicks, I really do like watching them. As much as I want to push back on the point you're making about Jalen Brunson, he's been so good this year, and he
Yeah.
has been literally unstoppable. I think the Knicks are good, and I'd say, I mean, they're the 2 seed, but I think they've been the second best team in the East, and I think they'll go. I honestly would pick them to go to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah.
Um,
Sense.
because Brunson has been so good. That being said, I think their upside is capped. Kind of going along with what you're saying. I think Julius Randle, like, if he were healthy, I could see one of two things happening. I feel like he could just like be a detriment to them, honestly, but he would also be a reason if they, were to have a higher ceiling. Um, but I think at the end of the day, I think the Celtics are running away in the East, especially, people were worried about, maybe the Heat are going to get that 8 seed and give them problem in the first round, like they gave them problems and beat them last year. But now Jimmy Butler's hurt and you're not really feeling good about that. In the West, I think the Nuggets are the best team still, but I maybe it's just the LeBron fan in me, but I feel like the Lakers are going to give them some problems in the first round. What's your take on that?
Uh, what Lakers Nuggets you said?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Maybe it's
So
just I want it to happen, but
yeah, I think that was my whole thing too. Was I was thinking about wanting it to happen because Ben, big LeBron fan, not a big Laker, do not like the Lakers, but big LeBron fan. Want LeBron's legacy to be the GOAT. I think he is the GOAT. But the Lakers, I was listening to another podcast earlier yesterday. If you had to guess, what do you think the Lakers' record is the last 3 seasons against the Nuggets?
I'm pretty sure they're like owing their last 8 games against them or something like that.
So, so they're 4-11 in their last 3 seasons against the Nuggets. Um, I just don't think they match up well, but also they're just not as good. Like the Nuggets, it's so
I
weird
think the
because
Nuggets are a little worse than last year, though, to be fair.
uh, no Bruce Brown, no Bruce
No
Brown.
Bruce Brown.
Um, I
Yeah.
also think before prior to last season, there was the narrative of the Nuggets can't win the playoffs. Nuggets can't win the playoffs. It's insane how bad they get in the playoffs, and like that's true until you win a championship, right? And then everyone's like, "Oh, this team's built for the playoffs," and it's like,
True. Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not. Um, Obviously the Nuggets won the finals, so you can't, they are built for the playoffs, I guess. But I think that's kind of a dumb conversation to have. It's like you win games or you lose games. But yeah, I don't think the Lakers have a chance. Personally, I want LeBron to do well, but I don't see it. But
They were to miraculously beat the Nuggets and get lucky and get past them, you got to be feeling great about their chances moving forward
oh,
in the
for
West,
sure,
though.
for sure,
If they could find a way to do that, it's like, oh my God, all bets are off now.
for sure, 1000%. Kind of like the Heat last year,
Mm-hmm.
beating the Bucks in the first round. Okay, so real quick though, I just pulled up the series odds for the NBA playoffs. This is being shot before the second play-in night. So we don't know the 8th seed in the East. We don't know the 8th seed in the West. So I'm gonna rattle off a couple series and their odds. You tell me which side you're picking, okay? Okay.
That
Cavs.
who I'm gonna think is gonna win the series, or like based on the betting odds, like which
Who do
value?
you think's gonna
Like,
win the who do you think's gonna win the series?
okay,
But I'll say the odds just because I think there's at least a couple of these that are a little bit interesting in terms of their odds. Okay.
yeah.
Cavs Magic. Cavs minus 195. Magic plus 165.
I think that series is a complete toss up, and I almost like the Magic more anyway. So
Okay.
to
So
look at
you
their
go
plus
Magic.
money, I would be taking the Magic.
Okay, I'm gonna go Cavs in this. I think just having the playoff experience works, but also yeah, -195. I probably would not touch that because I do think it's pretty close. Okay, this one, one of the first interesting ones: Suns
Hmm.
-130, Timberwolves +110.
I'd be taking the Timberwolves. I know the Suns have had the Timberwolves number this year, and they have obviously two elite playoff performers in Booker and Durant, and then obviously they have Bradley Beal. But I I know the Suns have had the Timberwolves number, but I feel like in a 7 game series, the Timberwolves just have the wings and the personnel to really give those kind of isolation scores problems where they're gonna get theirs and they're gonna have games where one of them or they drop 40 and there's no way you're winning the game. I think the Timberwolves are gonna end up with a full 7 game like game plan, series game
Sure.
plan. I think they're gonna win in 6.
Okay. I think
And
I'm gonna
underdog.
lean, yeah, underdog as the higher seat. Um, I'm gonna give Suns, I think. Same thing, the reason I'm picking the Cavs. The Cavs really haven't had that much playoff experience, but they have had more than the Magic. And you can say the same thing for the Suns, for the Timberwolves. Okay. This is kind of the reason I wanted to do this. This specific series is why I want to do this. Can you guess? I'm going to have you guess the odds. 76ers Knicks. What do you think the odds in that series are?
What do I think the series are? I would assume it's Knicks favored slightly, so like Knicks -120.
It is Sixers -115.
Okay, so it's
Knicks.
very even,
So
but
yeah, you
Sixers
have
are
the
favored.
opposite.
Yeah.
You have the opposite. I guess that's because Joel Embiid's back.
Yeah.
I'm Knicks though.
That series is gonna be really good. I know I just said I'd pick the Knicks to go to the conference finals. Um
It's a good
they
series for
don't
sure.
have great personnel to no one really does to handle Embiid, but
Embiid doesn't get the calls in the playoffs though. People forget.
true. True.
Okay, we'll rattle off. We'll kind of speed run these last ones, so less
Yeah, yeah.
interesting. Actually, they are a little bit more interesting, but I'd rather we spend time on something else. Denver Nuggets, Lakers, -310 Nuggets, +250 Lakers. I feel like we both
I would be taking the Nuggets, but I'm gonna be rooting for the Lakers.
Mavericks 125 -125, Clippers +105. I'm gonna go Clippers here.
I'm gonna take Mavs.
Okay. And then Bucks, Pacers -110 each. No Giannis for the Bucks. I'm picking the Pacers.
It's no Giannis for the beginning of it, right? I think they're thinking he's gonna miss
That
like
was the whole thing, but I could be wrong.
if he was out for the whole series, I would be taking the Pacers for sure.
That's what I thought he was. Yeah, I maybe
I
I
thought he
misread.
was just missing the first like 2 games or something like that. But
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna be taking the Pacers with you. The
Oh,
Bucks
Jimmy.
look horrible, and I think Doc Rivers just sucks. I hate Doc Rivers.
Yeah, Doc Rivers has had a less than stellar playoff record since winning the finals in
Yeah, the whole Buck situation, they were like what the
30 and 13 when they fired
yeah,
I
and
forget.
say what you want, like maybe he wasn't that great of a coach and they were trying to take a swing, like I get it. But Doc Rivers just pisses me off. Like he's just not good. He made them even worse. They've been playing terrible. And then every single press conference is just like, yeah, it's not my fault. Everyone just sucks. Like I'll never take any accountability. It's like, bro, you blow. I hate you.
Yeah. Well, I also think like this is a different issue, but I don't know how you feel about it, but like coaches going on like podcasts during the season, like that's what he's done. And it's just like, what? Like, I don't know. It's just
I mean, players do it so much now.
players do it, but like players, I'm okay-ish with players doing it. Like I said, I'm okay with doing players doing it. I don't really care that much. But like a coach is like, dude, you get interviewed by the media every other day. Like, what more do you have to yap about, you know? But I don't know. It's teacher.
Yeah.
I'm not It doesn't really matter. I guess I actually don't care about coaches doing it. I think I just care about Doc Rivers doing it because he's kind of a
I just
weirdo.
hate Doc Rivers. He blows.
Yeah. So yeah, that was our that's our NBA playoff preview. Who are you
That's
taking to
our
win it?
first round preview.
Who are you taking to win it all? Call it now. Who over who to win it all?
Oh, I mean, I'm gonna take the Celtics to win it all, which is just
Yeah,
kind of like chalk, but
sure.
they've been there many times. They were clearly the best team in the league this year.
Mhm.
I think it's just their year to do it. In the West, God, it's so hard to pick a team in the West. I want to pick the Lakers so bad too, but that's
All
just
right.
I can't honestly sit here and say I think they're
No,
gonna
you
beat
can't
the Nuggets.
you can't pretend like the Lakers are gonna.
Uh I mean, gun to my head, I'm saying Celtics Nuggets. Celtics win.
Okay.
I guess
All
I'll
right.
say that.
I get a little bit more of an interesting call.
Let's hear it.
Celtics are going. Yeah, I mean Celtics for sure. I think you never know with them. I feel like we say for sure, but it's like how the Celtics ever for sure fire shot. Um, and then in the West, I've earlier in the season on the All Star break, I fell in love with one team in the West and was like, this is my team for this season. Assuming the Kings don't go far, which at this point, at best, they're going to be the 8 seed and play the Thunder.
I think they could give the Thunder a run for their money.
I think
Just gonna throw that out there. I
I'm
wouldn't pick them to
assuming
win, but I think they could take it to 6 or 7.
I think so too, actually. Assuming the Kings don't make a run, which I don't think they will. I like the Clippers. And listen, I know they've been really not good down the stretch.
No.
Like really not good down the stretch. James Harden typically takes a step back, calm playoff time. I get that. And I'm using, for lack of better judgment, I am gonna be a fool and say Clippers going on a run. I think this is their year. It's the same thing I go back to last year. Everyone's like, you can't win in the playoffs until you can, right? Like
Yeah.
the Nuggets couldn't win the playoffs until they could. Like LeBron couldn't win the finals until he could. I mean, that was a decade ago at this point when people are saying that, but it's true. People did say that. Um, Warriors couldn't win in the playoffs until they could. Like they kept getting bounced by the Clippers every year. So I'm going Clippers, Celtics. I was gonna say Nuggets. That doesn't make sense. Clippers, Celtics,
I don't
finals.
I honestly really like the Mavs.
Yeah.
So I
Uh,
respect the pick, but I do think the Mavs are gonna win. They have been very good down the second half of the year. And kind of on the same thing, Luka's kind of can't win in the playoffs.
true.
Really
So
does.
true. Yeah, it's not
And
really an argument.
Kyrie has been insane post All-Star break.
Who has?
Kyrie.
True.
And the trade for Gafford and Lively playing really well, I think is just huge. And it's just going to be, the Luka show. And it's going to be X factor is, does Kyrie drop 30?
True.
Um,
True.
but they've been playing better defense. I'm very excited for the NBA playoffs.
I am too. I am too. Every year, I'm always like down in the dumps about the NBA. I'm like, it's kind of boring now. Wow, I don't really like it. And then playoff time comes, and I'm like, oh, I'm in. I'm sold.
And then
Like,
you realize this is, and now everyone's really trying, first of all. And then it's like, wow, this is the pinnacle of basketball in the entire world.
yes. Oh, for sure. Not even close. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Not even close.
NBA, everyone loves to rat on it, especially for its regular season. I don't think the regular season is the best product in the world at all. But like we're kind of just saying right now, come playoff time, it is awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I feel like that's good now. NFL draft next week. Maybe we can kind of get some draft takes out there.
Sure.
In a episode before the draft. I also think one of my biggest kind of things I've been thinking about lately is everyone loves to do like player rankings and position rankings before the draft. And if you really sit there and think about it, it's kind of dumb because you're kind of just ranking players in a vacuum. without like situation and scheme and things like that.
Yeah.
Like for one team, the rankings of position, like of players by position, is completely different for the next, let alone positional needs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think it would also be kind of cool if we like based our rankings based on where people land. I think that could be kind of cool.
Sure. Yeah.
Where like, if you're neck and neck on Jaden Daniels and Drake May, but one of them goes to a way better situation, you're like, well,
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the tiebreaker here.
Well,
Something like
what do you think is the better situation for a rookie quarterback, the Commanders or the Patriots?
that.
I'd have to look at the rosters, I guess, but
Probably Commanders just because the receiving
yeah,
core and the Patriots
Terry
receiving core
McLaurin.
is so bad. But the Commanders offensive line also sucks. Patriots isn't good either. So I'm gonna say Commanders.
I think off the top of my head, I would go Commanders, but really that's mostly because I know Terry McLaurin exists. Like other than that,
Jahan
like
Dotson,
John Dotson. I'm trying to think of like the Patriots receivers, and I can't think of like Devontae Parker.
Kendrick Bourne, Demario Douglas,
Okay.
kind of their
Okay.
1-2 right now.
I'm gonna
Really
go,
bad,
yeah.
really
Yeah.
bad.
So
But
is
maybe
Hunter
we'll get into that more next week. Goals for this week. Ian, what is it?
goals for this week. Okay, documentary. We'll talk about the documentary a little bit more. I am hoping to have a better layout of the documentary finished by this time next week. And by better layout, I'm gonna have stuff written on paper. I'm gonna have, actual like outlines of where I want the story to go. I said I don't really want it to be linear, and so I feel like that gives me a little bit more freedom to do it. So I'm going to try to have more, especially the intro written down, at least the first parts of it down, and which specific parts I want to cover. So more of an outline of this new documentary that I'm working on. Tim,
Fair
your
enough.
goal for the
My goal for the week. I did not come prepared for this.
I did not either.
I'm gonna say. Okay, so my overall mindset for the next couple month or two has been I'm trying to lose a little weight right now. And I've been very dialed in on my diet. And my goal for the next week is to just stay committed to it, stay strong, stay on the diet, and keep losing a little bit of weight, get leaner for summer. That's what I'm gonna
Nice.
say my goal is.
Nice. I will say I've been trying to do the same dieting and eating healthier and definitely working out. I mentioned the cardio thing the last 2 months or so, a little less than 2 months. And it's very cool to see like it actually take fruition and like being
Yeah,
able to have more energy, but also lose weight. I mean, that's a big thing for me is like trying to lose weight. And I know that's what you just said. So like it's very cool to like actually see the progress and are saying
definitely.
like, oh, like I look maybe not super different, but I definitely look different than I did a year ago,
Yeah,
and also certainly just being able to weigh yourself probably is the bigger thing. So,
definitely. All
yeah.
right. Well, I think that's all we got. We're 5 for 5. 5 podcasts, 5 weeks.
Let me get a 5 for 5. When is Wendy's gonna pull up with a 5 for 5? Actually, they've gotten rid of the 4 for 4.
Did they
So
actually?
it did. It doesn't exist anymore.
That's
We're talking
horrible.
about dieting, and I'm talking about the 4 for 4. But
Everyone's talking about everything wrong with America, and we're not starting with the 4 for 4.
dude, there you have the $5 biggie bag anymore. It's like a $6
What
biggie bag.
is that? Oh,
Go to your local Wendy's and see what's happened. It's not good. It's not good, people.
we need more reform.
Wendy's, hit us up if you want to be our first sponsor. So,
Defund Wendy's.
yeah.
All right, peace.
Bye.